Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. This is your Erik ten Hag press conference reaction for Brighton against Manchester United. Lots to get into. Buzzing about the positive, huge boost, injury boost that Erik ten Hag has delivered in his press conference today. Also, some fantastic quotes. Quite a long interview from Erik for us to get through. Some fantastic quotes about the culture at Manchester United, about the away form, about the youth and the path to the youth, and about hunger in the team, and about improvement in the team, and about what Manchester United stands for, and about what he's trying to deliver at Manchester United, about what he thinks of the season so far, and whether if he'd have been offered in August top four and a trophy, would he have taken it? And a very interesting response from Erik ten Hag. So we'll dive all into that. Full sale only, says Anonymous. I'm feeling good today. I hope everyone's feeling good today. I know it's okay not to be okay, and sometimes I'm a miserable sod, but I'm feeling good today. I hope everyone else is as well. Get your comments in and let's get into it. So look, the big takeaway from me is that Raphael Varane, get ready to hit that like on the video, smash it now. Raphael Varane is back. He's back. He's not going to be able to play tomorrow against Brighton or West Ham, but from then, Varane will be in first team consideration. Very, very close to being back. I don't think we've got any pictures of him training with the team yet, but he is basically back for Manchester United, in the sense that, you know, he's not injured, he's not able to do light training, etc. In fact, the updates on injuries, 3 big updates. We've mentioned Scott McTominay this morning. Garnacho's very close, but won't be back tomorrow. Ten Hag wants to see him on the training pitch a little bit more first. Needs some, you know, it's been out for a while. Varane is going to be back after Brighton and West Ham on Sunday. And he will be back before Scott McTominay. So I think Scott McTominay is not too far away either. Delighted to see Garnacho sign his new deal, says Enjoy Writing. Well, he spoke about Garnacho in a bit of depth here. But somebody said they feel bad for Lindelof. I mean, no. You don't need to feel bad for Lindelof, because Lindelof should get to play the next 2 games. And then Varane, I mean, look, Varane's vulnerable, isn't he? You never know if he's going to pick up another injury before the end of the season. So I think we need to... I think Lindelof will get plenty of game time between now and the end of the season, because if I'm Erik ten Hag, I'm really looking to build Varane and Shaw for the Man City FA Cup final. That's what I'm looking to do, and hopefully by the time Varane's back after West Ham, hopefully we'll have another 4 or 6 points, and we'll have, you know, top 4 basically done, so there can be a bit of rotation. But huge player to have back, Varane. I mean, I think he's understated, underrated in some sense. I think he's been brilliant for us this season. As I said, in January, he was superb with Shaw. In the new camp, it was him and Shaw. They were brilliant. So I think having Varane back in any way is brilliant. But to have him back by the middle of May, superb with that FA Cup on the horizon. And it just shows you how quickly he has got back, that he's going to be back before or at the same time as Scott McTominay. So huge boost to have Raphael Varane back and on the mend. Because we need him. We need him for that FA Cup final, certainly. And I don't think it diminishes Lindelof's role. In fact, actually, I saw that the 3 candidates for Player of the Month were Victor Lindelof, Bruno Fernandes, and I think Luke Shaw. And a lot of the polls had Lindelof actually ahead for Player of the Month, which would be fantastic for him, because I think Shaw's been brilliant, Bruno's been brilliant. But if Lindelof was to win Manager of the Month, I mean, that's just another indicator of how intelligent this fan base is, because... you know, people say, oh, you know, people give this player stick, give that player stick. But when you can pick Victor Lindelof out as Player of the Month, I think that just shows you how knowledgeable the fan base is, that they can appreciate a reserve centre-back coming into the team and working brilliantly well. So yeah, I hope he does get it, because I think it would be good. So yeah, Victor Lindelof will continue hopefully at centre back tomorrow and West Ham, and then we'll have Varane back, which allows us to have a little bit of rotation, because it's great news to have Varane back. Yeah, Garnacho should be back very, very soon as well. McTominay around the same time as Varane. I'm just going to take this in order because he spoke about quite a lot of things, but he was asked about the Jimmy Murphy statue that's going to be unveiled this evening and what his thoughts were on that and what his knowledge was. And he said, of course, I'm aware of Jimmy Murphy. History is so important and it's so good that this football club honours a man who stands for so much for this football club. He stands for resilience, determination and development. After the Munich tragedy, there was a manager and players that were unavailable and fell away, sadly, and the club bounced back, and he played a huge role in that. So it's fantastic that they are honouring him with this statue. And obviously there is already the Jimmy Murphy Award that goes to the young player at the end of every season. And then Erik ten Hag was asked about, well, Garnacho won that last year. He's just got a new contract. What are your thoughts on that? And he said, look, Garnacho has the prize. He showed that he can make that step from being a young player, talent, to a first team player. But now it's the next stage. You know, he's not a young player anymore in the sense that he's not a youth player. He's now got his contract with the first team. He's earned that right. And that brings new expectations and new demands. And he's got to step up even higher than that now. But also, Garnacho, Ten Hag said, has shown the young players that it won't be gifted, your opportunity in a United first team. You've got to deserve it. And we were talking about this morning, and Ten Hag said it numerous times this season. There's no grey area if you're a young player at Manchester United. You have to deserve the right to play in that team. And that is what Ten Hag is saying. And Garnacho has represented that this season. Not only is he talented, but he's also determined. He's earned his right, he's earned his contract, and he has shown players that you will get a chance in my team, but you've got to deserve it. And what he means by that is, I'm not just going to pick a talent from the youth team and say, there's 10 minutes in the first team because we're 4-0 up. You've got to show me that, you know, if you're a striker, you're as good as Martial. You've got to show me that if you're a winger, you're as good as Sancho. If you're a midfielder, you're as good as a Fred or a McTominay. He's not, and that's not to say they've got to go in the team and be consistent, but what he wants them to do is come into the team and deliver, deserve it. And I think it's a great message to send out, because when we're talking this morning about whether we should give Weghorst a contract, listen to the manager. He's giving you hints on how he runs the football club. The youth team, you are not going to get in the first team just because you're talented. You've got to deserve it. And if he's setting the standard that high for young players, where, you know, they're young and, you know, you want to nurture them a bit, but he's saying, no, the bar's high, you've got to deserve it. And that's to 17, 18-year-olds. Imagine how high he's setting the bar to be a first team squad player or bench player, or, you know, Ten Hag's knocking the standards up, and I'm here for it. That's what I'm saying. I'm loving that. Absolutely loving that. So, yeah, he spoke positively about Garnacho. You got to earn your spot, says Sean King. That's exactly what it's all about. You've got to earn that spot. Anonymous says, any news on Maguire? Well, he was on the bench at the weekend, so he's not injured. Yeah, absolutely great. High Times United says, on fire today, Mark. Only just finished the morning show. Glad everybody's enjoying the content. Back at 8 o'clock tonight, by the way, just to let you know. Last couple of nights I've done 7 o'clock because I've been doing watch-alongs. There ain't no way I'm watching a blowtorch play an Easter egg tonight. If you know, you know. I'm not watching Man City, the blowtorch, play West Ham, the Easter egg. It's just going to... They're going to melt away in minutes. I'm not watching that. So 8 o'clock tonight, we will have United stand. Anyway, let's get moving. Everybody's grooving. So he was also asked about... I liked this question, actually. There was one question in the press conference I didn't like. We'll come to that in a minute. But I liked this question because basically he was said, look, last time you played Brighton, opening game of the season, you lost at Old Trafford. If you'd have been... you know, if you'd... Would you do you know, how do you look at the season now from where you were then, and, you know, are you happy with where the club is now compared to that opening day loss to Brighton and where you are now, third in the league, you've won a Carabao Cup? And he said, look, I don't talk about, this is Ten Hag's words, I don't talk about pride and satisfaction until the end of the season. There's no laziness. If you start talking about we're having a good season, we're really happy with the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup final, we're really happy to be third in the league, that can lead to complacency, that can lead to laziness. So I don't talk about if, I talk about now. We've got to have full focus. Every game we want to win, and that's where I look at. So I don't look at the game against Brighton at the start of the season and the game tomorrow night and look at, you know, those two first losses in the season and worrying about what was going to happen. And then, you know, I remember what happened when we lost to Brighton and Brentford. I wasn't even predicting top four before the season started. I think after those first two games, look, we don't want to go back. We want to look forward. There are people in football, there are people in our fan base that I think they're so flip-flop, they don't even realise. Like, they're sort of like, I openly admit, after we lost to Brentford and Brighton, I was like, this season's going to be really tough. We didn't realise how hard it's going to be, which shows you the great job Ten Hag and the players have done. But Ten Hag's having none of it. I'm not here to talk about the progress, because the progress isn't there until the end of the season. Then I'll look back on it and with satisfaction. Aditya says, surely Lindelof deserves a spot in the final, Mark. Mate, I'm a massive fan of Victor Lindelof. There are so many things that can change between now and June. Just because Varane gets back fit doesn't mean he gets picked. Just because Varane gets fit doesn't mean Lindelof or Luke Shaw doesn't get injured. Doesn't mean he doesn't play Varane and Lindelof in the final and put Luke Shaw at left back. There's loads of things, but all I'm saying is, would you pick Sancho over Rashford? I wouldn't. Would you pick Lindelof over Varane? I wouldn't. I wouldn't pick Fred over Eriksen. Varane's got to play if he's fit, because he's the best centre-back we've got available at the moment. But there's a long way to go before that. He was then asked, if you were offered a trophy and top 4 in August, would you be happy? And he said, no. Well, he didn't say no. What he said is, we want to win every game. Champions League's what we want, and that's the only focus right now. After the FA Cup, that'll be the end. But we live in the now. We don't live in the if. Good is not good enough. And again, it's just setting that standard. I think that I knew Ten Hag was going to answer it like that. There's no way that he's going to sit there and say, I'm happy with top 4 and a Carabao Cup. I am. Are you, as a fan? If somebody had said to you at the start of the season, would you be happy with top 4 and a cup? I'd have said yes, thank you very much. But the fact that the manager's there going, I'm not going to commit to that, I want more. I think it's just obsession. I think it's just greed. That's what it is, and that's what this manager is. And I knew bits about Ten Hag, and that's why I wanted him as Manchester United manager. I still think we're learning every week. I still think we're learning things about him all the time. But what we've learnt in this, 12 months nearly now, is he's obsessed. He's the closest we've got to the fans since Sir Alex. He's obsessed. He understands the club, he's educated, he's intrinsically linked to youth and good football through his Ajax days. But the biggest thing that stands out to me is that this is the closest we've had since Sir Alex Ferguson in relation to a manager that is absolutely obsessed with getting better and better and better. And I know we had Mourinho, and I think Mourinho's obsessed with winning, but Mourinho's obsessed with winning in a different way to Ten Hag. Mourinho didn't really care how he won. He just wanted to win. I think Ten Hag wants to win, but he also wants to do it in the way we want to win. He wants to be the best. He wants to dominate. He wants that legacy of these teams were some of the greatest teams there ever were. Now, whether he can achieve that or not, we'll have to wait and see. But his obsession is fantastic. He was asked about Brighton and whether he expects a reaction after the FA Cup semi-final loss. Obviously, we beat Newcastle in the Carabao Cup and they gave us a reaction at St James's Park. So are we expecting a revenge mission from Brighton tomorrow night? He said, yes, it's normal. It's normal there'll be a big reaction. Revenge is normal. All of these things we have to expect. Definitely, and he's right. They've lost a penalty shootout. They played well that day. They're not in the FA Cup final. That will hurt them a lot. And of course, this is an opportunity for them to vent some of that frustration. So, of course, there's going to be a reaction. Eric's right. But he also went on to say, we've got to match that. It's not acceptable for another team to be more hungry than us. And he said this last week, didn't he? And he's absolutely right. No player of any opposition should be more hungry for a football match than a player who's wearing a Man United shirt. And unfortunately, this has happened a lot this season, the season before, and for the last 10 seasons. Too many times, especially away from home, we go away, they're more hungry than us, they're more up for it than us. That's not acceptable. So, it needs to change. And he was asked about the away form and whether it's something that, he'd like to win tomorrow because our away form this season's not been very good. He says, I don't think about the away form. I think about all form. I think about every game, home and away. And our focus has to be to win every game. He will think about the away form, but there's no point in really talking about it because regardless of whether we beat Brighton tomorrow, our record against the top 10 away from home is abysmal. We've only beaten Fulham. It's rubbish. Even if we beat Brighton tomorrow, it's still rubbish. So that'll be something he's looking at in the summer anyway. And as I say, if we can replicate next season what we've done this season and get 2 or 3 more wins away from home, that's another, well, let's say 3 wins. That's another 9 points. So straight away, there's a real area for improvement for Manchester United. You give us another 9 points now, we're not actually far off Arsenal. So, and that's without the striker that we desperately need. I think if we sort our away form out next season, and I'm not saying win every game away from home because that's ridiculous, but our record against the top 9 has been crap. If we can win 3 of those and add a striker that can play every week and score goals, I can see this team getting another 10, 15 points. And another 10, 15 points technically does put you into a title race. So you can see the areas of improvement. I think we need a lot more improvement than that. I think we need more cover in the midfield. We need another centre-back. But just sorting out the away form against our real rivals and putting a striker in that team should, if we can maintain what we've done already, and we've just spoken about the obsession of Ten Hag and the demand to improve, I think we can see another 10 points next year. He was also asked about this was the question I didn't like, actually. I understand the question. We've had some bad questions in the press conferences this year. I mean, even Adam off the channel asked a bad question about Harry Maguire. So when I say it's a bad question from a journalist, it's only a perception, it's only an opinion, and I've said it about someone who works on the channel, so they don't need to take it personally. Some people do. I think it's ridiculous. As I said, I thought Adam's question was crap, and I told him that. But it's not personal. But I didn't like this question that much, and I'll tell you for why. He was asked about, does the culture of Manchester United and the demands of Manchester United, make it a difficult job, essentially, and the culture being the demand to not only win, but win playing the right way, entertaining, developing youth. And the reason I thought it was a bad question is because do we not know Erik Ten Hag and what he did before Manchester United? Look, Manchester United have to win, they have to play the right way, and they have to develop youth. So does Ajax. Where do you think he's been for the last few years? Look, Man United's a bigger club than Ajax, it is. But the principles are the same. They still Ajax in some ways have to develop youth talent more than Man United. They have a pressure to develop youth players because Man United have a pressure to develop youth players because it's what we do and we'll always do it. Well, it goes back to the Busby Babes. We'll always do it because that's what we do. We always have young players. That's Manchester United. Ajax have a bigger pressure to develop young players because it's not just because that's what they do. They have to do it because they have to have a conveyor belt of talent that maintains the club's status as the Netherlands' biggest club because they make money from those players. So to ask Ed Ten Hag about the pressures of the demands of Manchester United, well, Ajax have to develop young players. They have to play good football because that's been their legacy for decades. Ajax have to play good football. And also they have to win because they are the Netherlands' biggest club. It's a lower level because, with all due respect, Dutch football, the Eredivisie, is not the Premier League. But asking Ten Hag about the pressures of the culture of Manchester United, there is pressure because it's Manchester United and it's harder. But there's very big similarities between... there's not many clubs that are a better training ground for the Man United expectations than Ajax because you've got to play great football, you've got to develop young players, and you've got to win. So, in many ways, I don't think the culture of Manchester United is a shock. I think if you're Jose Mourinho and you come to Manchester United, it's a shock. He knows he's got to win, but he's never really developed young players and he's not known for playing great football. Ten Hag, all right, he didn't come with the reputation as Mourinho, but he does understand it. Next season, he must be judged on the football, though, says Robert McCormack, and I agree with this. I don't think we're playing great football this season. I think we all agree with that. We've seen glimpses. Funnily enough, I think both games against Spurs, home and away in the league, we've probably played our best stuff. Now, is that because Spurs are crap? Maybe, but we have. We've seen glimpses against Barcelona. We have seen glimpses against other teams, but I go back, and I've mentioned it a few times. I remember me and Ben Foster talking at the start of the season about Ten Hag ball, and the principles of it basically are high possession, 70% possession. But when I say high possession, it means a high press from the whole team. It means a lot of possession around the edge of the box. It means a lot of shots. We're not really doing that yet. I introduced the stats carousel for the watch along basically because there's some key indicators on there of Ten Hag ball, which we've not really pinged that many times. But I remember Ben saying, I don't think you're going to see that style of football for 18 months. And that sounded like a long time. But we've had 12 months now, and we're only getting glimpses. So I think next season, Robert's right. I think we'll start to see a better team. And it happened with Pep. It did happen with Pep. I would urge anybody to study Pep's first season in the Premier League, whether it's results, whether it's match reports, whether it's reviews. His first season in the Premier League wasn't what he does now. It wasn't. So I think next season we will see better football from Manchester United, and I think that's the next step. To win things and to get top four in your first season of transition, I think Ten Hag has done incredible. If next season we start playing good football, we will get better than we are now, because good football means more goals. It means more wins. So I think that will come next season. Why hasn't it happened this season? Because it's transition. Simple as that. He's still got players he won't want next year. And that was always going to be the case. He brought 5 players in last year. He was never going to sell 10 and buy 10. That's what needed to happen to get us to play well. And I think, it all depends on the sale. But hopefully, at the start of next season, we shouldn't be comparing the summer that's just gone. At the start of the season, I want to look back to when Ten Hag came in the club. And I want to look at that 12 months and go, we've got 10 new players and 10 have gone. And that's what I'm looking at this, in August. I want to look at it and go, from the minute Ten Hag came in to now, 10 players have been bought and 10 have gone. That doesn't mean we're going to buy 5 players in the summer and sell 5. That means, no, that's right, actually. We bought 5 last summer. We buy 5 this summer. That's 10 new players in. And that's when I think we'll start to see it. And that was always going to be the case. It was never going to be solved in one summer, which is why I think this season's been so good. Ten Hag has changed the culture, and now it's time to take the next step towards title contenders. We have the press, now we need possession, says Chris. Hi Mark, love the show. If the Carabao Cup winners, Man United, finish 4th and win the FA Cup, and Arsenal finish 2nd, which club do you think has had the better season, says Les. I don't get this. My answer is the same it's always been. If Arsenal finish 2nd and Man United finish 4th, who's had the better season? Man City. And that's the only person I give a shit about. I'm going to be honest with you here. I think Arsenal have had an incredible season. Whether they win a trophy or not, I think they've had an incredible season. I think Manchester United, if we finish 3rd or 4th and we win a couple of trophies or 1 trophy, I still think we've had incredible seasons. I think we've both had incredible seasons. I think we're both having transitional seasons as well. But number 1's Man City. I'm not arguing with an Arsenal fan about who's had the better season. I'm not doing it, because that's not the level I'm interested in. There's no trophy for we've had a better season than Arsenal. There isn't. I want the Premier League. I want the Champions League. I'm happy with our season. If I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be happy with theirs. Why would they give a shit if United have had a better season than them? Why would we give a shit if they've had a better season than us? I'm happy with our season. I think they should be happy with their season. But ultimately, we both need to be looking at Man City, not each other. That's the standard for me. I ain't interested in the gutter. I'm not arguing in the gutter about who's had the better season when Man City are celebrating holding a title, or maybe worse. That's the level. Hi, Mark. I love the show. That was from Les, by the way. Thank you very much to Les. The Celestial says we ain't winning the FA Cup. I think we're going to need to win the FA Cup, mate. I think that FA Cup's not about the FA Cup. I think the FA Cup's going to be about the treble, because I think Man City are going to win the league. And by the time the FA Cup comes round, we'll know if they're in the final of the Champions League. And if they're in the final of the Champions League, they're playing AC Milan or Inter Milan, and they're hot favourites. So that FA Cup becomes 77 all over again. Liverpool were going to win the treble. Man United beat them in the FA Cup. That's what this is going to be about. And I don't care how we do it. I don't care what we do. But we've got to win that FA Cup. It's our treble. We're playing to stop our rival winning the treble. And if they beat us and they win the treble, I will put my hand up and say well done, because that's what you do in a respectful sport. Regardless of whether they've cheated and all these charges, they won't be charged by then. We'll have to put our hands up and say well done. But we can stop it. Every other year we've been hoping Chelsea stopped them or someone else. We can stop it, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. We're back at 8 o'clock tonight. Fantastic show. Really enjoyed Ten Hag's press conference. Really varied, but really enjoyed it. That's one of my favourite press conferences he's ever done. Great to have Rafael Varane back as well. And we are back at 8 o'clock tonight. So have a great day, whatever you're doing. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And I'll speak to you all in a bit. Take care. Thumbs up, Goldbridge. Thumbs up. Eee.